and welcome to Third Thursdays. I'm Janine Birchie Johnson. One of my roles here at AMBS is Alumni Director, and today we are delighted to have two other alumni joining us for this conversation, Carl Stutzman and Elizabeth Miller. And the focus today is on telling library stories. So we're going to learn about some of the treasures of the AMBS Library and the Mennonite Historical Library at Goshen College, which partner together to provide resources for many, many parts of the church, and including our alumni as well. So welcome, Carl and Elizabeth. Welcome to all of the alumni who've joined us now and those who will watch this later. Carl and Elizabeth, I'd like to start by just having you introduce yourself, say a little bit about your roles, and give us an overview of the libraries that you are working with.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carl Stutzman. I serve as Director of Library Services for AMBS. I have worked at the AMBS Library in various ways since 2008 and have been the Library Director since 2016. One of the distinctives that you may know is our beautiful library space that we have on our Elkhart campus. And another is actually something that's been emerging, which is digital and electronic collections to support our growing distance programs at AMBS. So yeah, we kind of sit in the middle between really extensive fine print collections in the theological areas, as well as really broad, including interdisciplinary collections online, accessible to our students and faculty. So yeah, there's a lot to kind of track and manage. I am grateful that I have a colleague I work closely with in the library. Kaisa Hairstrom serves as our resource access librarian and does a fantastic job of helping connect people. So yeah, I really enjoy working collaboratively too. So that's part of why I'm excited to also have Elizabeth here. As a small seminary, we can't do nearly as much without our deep collaborative relationships. So yeah, I think that's maybe enough for me. I'll turn it over.
Well, before you do that, do tell us about the year you graduated from AMBS.
Yes. So I took AMBS classes over a long period of time, starting as a recent Goshen College grad in 2003 and running up until I finished my certificate in 2016. So yeah, I spanned some generations there. Yeah, that it, from the old library stacks with basement lighting up until the new library, and with very different faculty from when I started until I finished.
And when
um
did you start working at the AMBS Library?
2008. Yeah,
All right,
right after
thank you.
the new building opened.
Wonderful. And Elizabeth, tell us about yourself and your work.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Miller and very excited to be a part of this conversation today. I am the director of the Mennonite Historical Library and Institute for the Study of Global Anabaptism at Goshen College, and would like to make it very clear that I am not a librarian. So I am not good at answering technical questions about libraries, nor at necessarily even describing well everything that is held at the Mennonite Historical Library. What I do is I hold that mission and vision of the Mennonite Historical Library and the Institute together to guide our work, and our shared vision is to enrich Anabaptist scholarship and communities through global collection and storytelling. And that aligns very well also with much of the work that the AMBS Library does. And so we are very glad to partner with them and hold a historic partnership with them. The MHL was founded in 1906, so it's one of the oldest, most historic pieces of Goshen College, but it really began to expand in size and scope around 1924 when Harold Bender joined the Goshen College faculty. So the library itself is owned and staffed by Goshen College, but has for many years received significant acquisition support from AMBS, and that partnership has allowed us to continue to collect comprehensively in the field of publications by and about Mennonites and Anabaptists and related groups across time and around the world. And currently that collection is at about 90,000 volumes. So it's very sizable, and we have done acquisition for that collection partially with AMBS in mind, that this collection will serve AMBS students and their needs and their future ministries.
And Elizabeth, tell us about when you were at AMBS.
Do I know these numbers? I think I started at AMBS in 2006 and left kind of regular study around 2009, was mostly done with my Master's of Arts in Theological Studies by then, but still had to finish a thesis and one more course. So that didn't all get wrapped up until 2013. So when I started, it was still Associated Mennonite Biblical Seminary, but my degree was Anabaptist Mennonite Biblical Seminary.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you both for those just basic introductions and orientations to what you're doing. I'd like to ask if you could give us some examples of what makes your library special.
So Carl and I each picked a particular treasure to share with you that comes from our library's collections. So here's a photo of the treasure that I want to share with you. And if we were in a different kind of Zoom call, I would ask you to tell me what you notice about this photo. What do you see? What strikes you when you look at it? And when we were getting set up for this call, the first thing Janine said was, that is really tiny. And that is a really important fact of this treasure. So this is actually a concordance from Swiss Brethren Anabaptists that was compiled maybe as early as 1540, 1542, but definitely in the decade between 1540 and 1550. As a concordance, it includes a number of different topics under which different biblical citations are listed. Not a whole lot of actual text of biblical passages are found in there, although there are a few, and most of the citations are chapters. In this concordance, there weren't verses included yet. But it was organized around the Old and New Testament passages under different topical headings. And there's over 60 different topical selections in here. And if you go through them, they kind of outline a route to faith, starting with fear of God, repentance, discipleship, rebirth, service, faith, baptism, spirit, and ending with persecution and bearing witness. So you can this is a catechetical text. And if you think about the size of it, what was the experience of the Swiss Brethren in the 1540s? This was a context of persecution and a context in which books were still relatively, especially larger books, really only available to more wealthy people. And so the size of this shows us, first of all, that it was really portable and could easily be hidden for people who were in a context of persecution, but also the importance of everyone having access to biblical knowledge and being able to understand the foundation of their faith, even if they didn't have access to a full Bible that they could read in full. And so this is a very interesting historical text for that reason. It also, some scholars, particularly Arnold Snyder, has looked at how what is found in this concordance mirrors and tracks with some of the testimonies that you get from especially prison testimonies, legal testimonies of Anabaptists in this period, and it highlights the relationship between how people were learning orally, how they were practicing telling about their faith, and also kind of the catechetical training that they were getting through texts such as this. So this was published about 14 times between the 1540s and 1710. Most editions that survived only exist in like 1 or 2 copies that we can still track and find of those editions. It was primarily used in Germany. Most of the surviving editions are in German. There is one in Dutch. There's also some evidence that the Hutterites used this. The particular copy that the MHL has arrived in Pennsylvania with immigrants around 1730, and it was actually passed down through female genealogical lines for at least 3 generations, and the final female descendant in that line donated it to the MHL in the 1940s. We had this copy restored in 2017 by rare book restorer Jeff Peachy. And one thing I want to highlight for you is that this concordance continues to be used at times in different catechetical spaces. So Alan and Eleanor Kreider, Alan was professor emeritus of AMBS. When they were missionaries in England, they actually used the framework and references found in this concordance with Bible study groups that they worked with. There was an English translation of this with some scholarly commentary that was published in English in 2001. So if you can't read this tiny little book and don't read German, you can consult that English translation, and that is available at both AMBS and MHL libraries. So if you are local, you can check it out. Carl.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Some of what the Elkhart collection offers is kind of a bigger picture for how Anabaptism fits into a broader kind of theological context. So MHL has kind of the deep Anabaptist collection, and we kind of spread out. And I think this is kind of an interesting piece of that, which is it's a little book that has 2 separate books bound together inside of it. And it's paraphrases that the scholar Desiderius Erasmus made of the Gospel of Matthew. That's one of the books, and the other one is the Gospel of John. This is John. And these paraphrases were done in Latin. But this kind of represents, and Erasmus was a scholar who actually did remain in the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church. But what this represented was a really fresh engagement with the biblical text that was going on kind of contemporaneously with the Anabaptists. That kind of spurred this whole Reformation movement in some ways. So this particular book that we have in our collection was printed in 1522 in Cologne, Germany. And Erasmus stuff is pretty widespread. There's a lot of scholarly engagement with Erasmus's work. This is really significant stuff for studying the Reformation broadly, for studying the history of biblical interpretation. So this is a neat thing to bring out to kind of demonstrate what it actually looked like. Our copy in the AMBS library is semi-worthless, so if you come by, I'll let you touch it and look at it. We picked it up in the 1960s from a used book dealer and promptly wrote our call number on it, pasted in not only a book pocket, but also a date due strip, and kind of completely defaced it. So it's great because I can, without much fear, show it off to everyone. Yeah, the sins of previous librarians, it's okay. I've made my own. So Yeah, it's really kind of, I think, symbolic of the ways that Anabaptism has to be seen in dialogue, uh, not only with the rest of Christian tradition, the ecumenical community, but also with kind of social, political, cultural, technological, geographical kinds of contexts. Um, I think we don't get Anabaptism without the realities of what was going on in um, Central Europe in the 16th century, right? Um, the more that we can engage, um, with that context and actually with our own, because Anabaptism in the 21st century is not going to be the same as it was in the 16th century. It needs a fresh engagement with our context continuously. Um, so that's yeah, some of what we try to bring to the fore in our library in Elkhart is some of that um, encountering of a lot of different perspectives and contexts that inform our theology and practice of ministry and leadership and so forth.
Thanks, both of you. Those are really fascinating examples. And I want to stress that these are just, two examples, and there would be many, many other kind of rare books or interesting things that you would have in your collections. And you um, you have to take care of these in a certain way. So would one of you be willing to describe like how you care for a book that's this old? Um, Carl, you mentioned that you don't normally get to touch older things, but what are some of the things that you do to preserve these treasures?
I can say a little bit about that. Um, I am not the expert on this stuff, but I've had chances to learn a little bit over time. Um, I think the key thing that we need to do is to keep environmental conditions pretty stable. That's the most critical aspect. So you want to have heating and cooling kind of at consistent temperatures, humidity at consistent levels, um, and also freedom from pests and moisture. Um, those are the things, moth and rust destroy, right? Um, and on this side of heaven. Um, so, I think it's helpful to understand that these things really are, um, yeah, they're finite in their own way. They're not um, going to last forever, but we can actually, because they are crafted well, generally, we can make them last a lot longer. So actually, it's a lot easier to preserve something from the 16th century, like we're showing you now, than it is from the 19th century. There was a period of time. Where printing got cheaper and cheaper because they used lower and lower quality materials. So you have stuff from the 1800s that's printed on paper with high acid content, and it just gets really brittle and absolutely turns to dust in your hands when you try to open it. Um, so the priorities for preservation actually are sometimes the newer things, ironically, because of just the differences in manufacturing quality.
Okay.
Elizabeth, do you have anything else that I forgot about?
I'll just say, first of all, this would be a great question for Eric Bradley, who is the head librarian at the Mennonite Historical Library, but he had another engagement at this time and couldn't join us, unfortunately. But I just wanted to say that as rare and precious as these are, like Carl said, storage is really the main thing, and you actually can interact with these texts if you do it in the correct way. And the magic, especially for students, of physically interacting with an object that comes from 500 years before is really an amazing sort of experience. And so we do not, our library or AMBS's library, intend to keep these locked up because they're so precious. We want people to come see them and interact with them.
There's also a white glove debate. And at Goshen and AMBS, we fall on the side of against white gloves. Um, the rationale is that a couple things. For brittle books, the gloves actually get in the way of your dexterity and might make the books fall apart more. The kind of natural oils on our skin, at least to some level, actually help the books. And also, yeah, so our critical thing is, hey, wash your hands, get them nice and clean. Don't bring pens in, and just drinks and all that kind of stuff. The other piece of that would be that, photography is generally fine for these things too. Flash can sometimes be a problem, but generally, they can be touched, they can be photographed. Um, we want them to be experienced, like Elizabeth said.
Great. Well, and some of the people who are here today and who will watch this later are not nearby. So, can you explain a little bit about digital resources that our alumni and others can engage with?
Yeah, so the next slide is just one of the projects that we've engaged in collaboratively here. Elizabeth, do you want to say a little bit more about it?
Yes. And this is an especially nice one to highlight because this really started as a deep collaboration between AMBS's library under Eileen Sainer at that time, and Carl has also been a big part of it. This is a digital library of Spanish language resources that has been developed in collaboration with a consortium of Anabaptist seminaries found throughout Latin America, but also present in North America and Spain. And the idea is that these materials can be used by those seminaries and Bible institutes in their online courses. Many of them have a dispersed student body who aren't able to gather together physically for courses, and getting texts into the hands of those students can be very difficult, especially more specialized text. And so the original vision for this was to look through the collection, especially that the MHL had of Spanish language resources, get permissions from them, digitize them, and hold them in this digital space for use by those primarily seminaries and Bible institutes. Over time, that has evolved in a very good way. So now we don't just rely on what's held physically at the MHL to fill this digital library, but it is increasingly including material that is originally written in Spanish and comes from Latin America and Spanish-speaking communities in North America. And so that has been really rewarding to see this begin to fill out with material that comes from those communities themselves. I'll just show you what it looks like if you go to this site. Carl, if you could advance to the next slide. There are over 200 publications now held in this library. We started in about 2017. When you go there, each individual item has a summary, also kind of gives you what the general table of contents is, and then some categories that can help you search and find the materials that you are looking for. This particular book comes out of the Ecuadorian context and looks at indigenous understandings of politics and faith. So Carl, if you go to the next slide, I'll show you what it looks like. We host these in Internet Archive. So they're available in full digital form. They can be downloaded by students or individuals who wish to consult it without permanently using a lot of data on their phones or devices. People can print these off for personal use if they want. So this is a really agile and adaptable form. The other digital resource that I wanted to highlight is Gameo, the Global Anabaptist Mennonite Encyclopedia Online. I assume that the vast majority of you have used Gameo at some point or another. Often when you Google Mennonite-related topics, a Gameo article shows up in kind of the first set of search results. So the Institute for the Study of Global Anabaptism at Goshen College is the institutional home of Gameo, and the MHL works with a large network of archivists and librarians and a lot who are located in Canada who collaborate on this and have been drivers of this for many years to help contribute content and updates. And I wanted to highlight two elements of Gameo for you because they are particularly relevant to local congregations that you may be a part of, and they are also a way that you can contribute to Gameo. And we are always looking for more people to participate and contribute. So I pulled up this page here of Hopedale Mennonite Church from Illinois. This is my home congregation that I grew up in. We have congregational profiles on Gameo. Many of these were written years ago and need regular updates as to changes that have happened in the congregation. There are certain people that will update demographic information, but we are always looking for people to contribute fuller and richer updates to these congregational profiles. In the links that you'll receive afterwards, there is a guide for some templates that Gameo uses to do these congregational updates. And we would invite you to update your own congregation's profile if you're interested, or even better, get some of your youth to participate in that. This is a great way to get youth involved with their own congregation's history. And Carl, if you could go to the next slide. We also have biographical profiles in Gameo. We are increasing the number of global profiles that we have in Gameo. So this is a biography of Alemu Chekole, and this was written by now an AMBS graduate student working at Yale, who worked with me for his internship to write some biographies of leaders and individuals from the Mesedete Christos Church in Ethiopia. But we would also love to have some biographies of significant leaders from your own congregations as well. And so there will be some links for how to write and prepare a biographical profile. And these are very accessible writing projects. So I invite you to take a look at those if that's something that sounds interesting to you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. One of the, of the many kind of exciting crossovers that we have, the increasing international student connections at AMBS, and engaging them with some of this really important reference historical narrative work about Anabaptism has just been a really neat opportunity for us. Working at, if you don't know him, is an amazing guy. So I'm really thrilled that he was able to work with Elizabeth and do this descriptive work about what it means to be Anabaptist in Ethiopia and key figures there. So yeah, thanks for doing that. A final digital piece that I want to highlight is a collaboration also that we did with Mennonite Historical Library, and actually a bigger collaborative of Anabaptist Mennonite historical organizations and educational institutions. There is a guide to this on the AMBS library website. But like the Biblioteca Digital Anabautista, the actual resources are hosted over on Internet Archive. This is just kind of a navigational piece. So what we were able to do in collaboration and through grants and kind of crowdfunding is to make a lot of our historical periodicals in the Mennonite world available digitally online. So you can see here some of the examples would include Gospel Herald and the Mennonite from the two bodies that formed Mennonite Church USA originally. But there are a lot of others that have been added over time since then. And one of the cool things that's a little known feature of these, I won't be able to show it here, but we can link to it in our follow-up, is the ability to actually search inside of these periodicals. This gets really handy. We had an AMBS student that was doing a research project on a particular location and how it was treated in the Mennonite literature, and we were able to just put some search terms and just go across, the whole Gospel Herald or the whole Mennonite or Mission Network reports and see Mission Board at the time. Yeah. Just see how that topic was treated over the years. This is useful for, family historians and other folks like that. It really, yeah, it makes these resources accessible in a totally new way to have them digital and have them searchable.
Thanks, both of you. These are just really fascinating. So let's talk about how the work is supported.
So yeah, I have a couple of uh, slides here. This one that's on the screen here is actually from the Mennonite Historical Library's annual report that Elizabeth compiles, the most recent one. And the next one here, if I can get my screen to work, it's being wonky right now. Hold on a second, is about the AMBS Elkhart Library. So these are just small snapshots of the amounts of funding that we use each year for just our collection purposes. And these funds come from, in part, endowments that our libraries have, as well as just general funds from our annual fund. Um, and for MHL, the collection funding comes from both GC and AMBS as kind of sponsors of that collection. So these are very real dollars that come from very real supporters, and we do our best to translate them into resources for developing leadership and for the church. So an even larger amount than this collection spend goes to, me, Elizabeth, our teams to help us actually make these resources more accessible and better interpreted, so that that component of people to tell the stories and provide access is also really critical. So yeah, we are deeply grateful for the level of support that our libraries receive from our broader donor networks, in addition to people who thought for the future and gave to endowments. We at AMBS enjoy a relatively robust funding stream for our library, and that's not to be taken for granted. We talk to people in other places that don't share this, and so the impact that we can have, like through these really cool collections and digital projects and things like that, is directly linked to the support that we receive. Really, really generous support. So yeah, I just want to use this opportunity to express gratitude for that support that makes our work possible.
Thank you. And one final question I have, and then we'll turn to questions from the group that's gathered, and you can put those in the Q&A feature if you want to ask a question. How can alumni connect with the different resources that you have to offer? We've touched on this a bit with the digital resources, but what are some of the other things?
Yeah. So on the library website, again, on our library guides, we have a guide that's specifically for AMBS alumni. It's libraryguides.ambs.edu/alumni. We'll link to that in a follow-up as well. One of the signature resources is the Atla database alumni version that provides a huge number of full text articles um, from a wide variety of religious theological perspectives that are on, biblical studies, ministry, theology. These are extremely useful in things like sermon preparation, education preparation. There is even a scripture search functionality in the Atla database that you can use to hone in your search on a particular text. Um, so you can contact the AMBS library to request the password for that. It changes every year in September, and inevitably, when that happens, if people haven't gotten the update email about the password, we hear about it right away because people get hooked on this resource. It's just very, very useful. So we get if the password email literally doesn't go out within hours after the EBSCO forces us into the change. We get emails back, help, help, help. So we know this resource is really well appreciated by our alumni. We have some other pieces on this guide. You can navigate it over on the left. We do link to some of the same resources that Elizabeth and I have featured today, some of the free digital resources that are accessible, some of the projects we talked about today, and other projects. There is just a real richness of digital resources available at this point that we've worked at over the years to make accessible. Um, and we also navigate some of the other kinds of free theological resources on the web. There's a lot of less than good stuff out there, as I'm sure you know. Really old commentaries and yeah, people with theological perspectives that are interesting, shall we say. Yeah, this is an attempt to navigate some of the higher quality stuff that's out there. And then finally, we do, maybe not quite finally, we do also offer some research help from us as our librarians at AMBS. So if you have a question about a particular topic in our domain, we're happy to field questions. We're also happy to kind of scan some things from our print collection, small selections of things. So, like a chapter of a book or a journal article or an entry from a commentary or something like that, within the fair use provisions of U.S. copyright. As long as we feel like we can kind of do it legally and we have the staff wherewithal to scan, we do that for our alumni as well. Finally, if you make it to Elkhart, which you should because it's awesome, we want you to feel welcome to study in our library. We even have some spaces that we've had pastors use during sabbaticals, little study rooms where you can tuck away your computer and your books and spend some time just really delving into our resources. And of course, Goshen is only 10 miles from Elkhart, and that's just a fine opportunity to go with, hang out with Elizabeth and Eric and their collections as well. So, yeah, make the visit if you're at all able.
Yeah, I was grateful a year and a half ago to get help from the MHL library doing some family history exploration and was so grateful for the wisdom of they knew where to go to find those resources. We have a question that has come in for each of you from Naun. Thank you, Naun. For Elizabeth, he's wondering, why aren't more historians focused on Anabaptist history within the Mennonite Church, particularly when it comes to working with old materials? And what can be done to encourage more people to study and document our history? We have just a couple minutes for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I would say there was really a few decades ago a boom of scholarly work and research looking at materials from early Anabaptist history. And in that period, the MHL was a really important site for people to come do research, to look at the materials that were collected there. Since that time, many of those early materials have been digitized, so it's possible for people to be able to access them from other places. We don't have a digital copy of our actual 1540 concordance, but there is a digital copy from a similar concordance held in Schleitheim in Switzerland. So people can look at that digitized concordance if they're wanting to do work without having to make the trip to the MHL. I will say, as a way of encouraging people to work with some of these materials, however, at the MHL, we have something called the Schaefer-Friesen Research Fellowship, which helps cover lodging and travel costs for people who may want to physically come to the MHL to be able to do research, don't want to work through it in a digital format, or wanting to consult a wide range of materials. So that is an option for people who need some kind of financial support to be able to make a research trip like that, which can often be quite costly. And one of the things that we try to do through the ISGA, the Institute in particular, is also thinking about how we can expand our concept of what we think of when we say Anabaptist history. There's early Anabaptist history, which is really connected to a lot of these rare books that the MHL has. But Anabaptist history is the story of any Anabaptist community that has existed anywhere in the world and at any point in time. And so one of our goals with both collection and project development at this particular moment is to encourage research of other areas of Anabaptist history, in addition to some of that early Anabaptist history that may be better known.
Thank you. And Carl, Naun is asking, in light of AI's growing influence, what measures are you taking to ensure that librarians uphold verified Anabaptist history without compromising accuracy and integrity?
Yeah, so Elizabeth and I were just chatting about AI before we got on, because this is, she has a teaching role at Goshen College in addition to directing the ISGA and MHL. And obviously at the library at AMBS, we also interact a lot with students in their work. We host writing services in our library, and so we, help students improve their papers for their professors. So this is on our minds an incredible amount. I have a lot of thoughts on AI. I'll try to pare it down and summarize for you. AI is sort of inevitable in some ways. It's here, it's, getting better. The tech billionaires are hugely invested in it. And so we have to learn how to adapt. And I think maybe the biggest thing is talking about ethics related to it. In whatever context we're able to enter. And teaching people how to use it in helpful ways that are ethical in limited ways, I would say. The more limited we can make our AI, the better. One of the things that I think is really important is making sure that the tech for citing AI contributions keeps up with AI itself. So one of the things we're looking at AMBS is a tool that kind of forces some of that citation of AI. And just in general, I would say, anytime you're looking at anything on the internet, uh, keep a healthy dose of suspicion. If it, if it's not clear what the sources are, maybe AI, and it imagines things. Um, Really and
Yeah.
truly, it makes stuff up that doesn't exist. So you read those little AI summaries on Google that pop up in your search results now. Those often link to things that aren't really right. So yeah, be careful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us today, and to Carl and Elizabeth for really helping us get a glimpse at some of the wonderful resources that we have available. Next month will be our last third Thursday for this school year, and we will be talking with the staff from Orienting with the Word, which is a new program that AMBS is working at to help congregations revitalize Bible study. So I invite you to come back. Thanks again for all of your support of AMBS, for encouraging new students to come to try a class, for your financial support, your prayers. All of that is so much appreciated. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next month.